Commander J. Kim stood alone in the communications center, her eyes fixed on the screen before her. The room was silent except for the soft hum of equipment. The message playing on the screen had arrived just hours ago, transmitted through channels Earth's scientists had been monitoring for decades. "This is not a drill," she whispered to herself, reaching for the emergency phone. 3 days later, the world's news networks broadcast the same headline: "We are not alone." Streets filled with people looking up at the sky, some afraid, others hopeful. Religious leaders held special services. Scientists worked around the clock analyzing the message and its incredible implications. The transmission was clear and deliberate. Earth had been invited to join something called the Galactic Council, a group of 127 different alien civilizations that had been sharing knowledge, resources, and peaceful relations for thousands of years. The message included coordinates for a meeting point, along with detailed protocols for first contact. "They've been watching us," explained Dr. Tae Park during an emergency United Nations session. "Based on the message details, they've monitored our development since our first radio broadcasts. They believe we're ready to join their community of worlds." World leaders gathered in an unprecedented summit. Old enemies sat side by side, united by something bigger than their differences. After heated debates, they agreed to send a delegation. Commander Kim, who had received the first message, would lead the mission along with diplomats, scientists, and military personnel from 27 countries. "We need our best and brightest," said the UN Secretary General. "This is humanity's most important moment." The problem was getting there. The coordinates were just beyond Saturn's orbit. Not impossibly far, but still a journey that would take conventional spacecraft years to complete. The Council message politely suggested Earth might need about 8 months to prepare a suitable vessel and make the journey. "They think we're slower than we actually are," said Engineer Sung Lee, head of Earth's experimental propulsion program. "We've been working on theoretical wormhole technology for 15 years. It's never been field tested, but what?" asked Commander Kim. Lee smiled. "But I think we can be there in weeks, not months. Let's show them what humans can do when challenged." Construction of the spacecraft Audacity began immediately. While other nations contributed technology and personnel, Korea's advanced shipyards handled final assembly. The ship wasn't beautiful. Critics called it a flying laboratory, held together with hope and duct tape. Its hull combined conventional materials with experimental alloys. The wormhole generator, never before used outside simulations, took up nearly a third of the vessel. "Is it safe?" reporters asked during the ship's unveiling. "Absolutely not," Engineer Lee answered honestly. But neither was crossing oceans in wooden ships. Humans have always taken risks to explore. The night before launch, Commander Kim couldn't sleep. She stood at her window looking at the stars. "What if we're making a mistake?" asked her second-in-command, Officer Hanamoon. "What if this is some kind of trap?" "Then we'll face it together," Kim replied. "But I don't think it is. Think about it. If they wanted to harm us, why invite us to join them? No, I think this is genuine. They're reaching out a hand in friendship. And if they're disappointed when they meet us, we're still fighting wars, still polluting our planet." Kim nodded. "We're not perfect, but we're trying to be better. Maybe meeting them will help us see ourselves differently." The launch day arrived with clear skies. Billions watched as Audacity rose from Earth on pillars of flame. Once in orbit, the crew prepared for the first-ever human attempt at wormhole travel. "All systems ready," reported Officer Moon, her voice steady, despite the tension everyone felt. "Activate wormhole generator," ordered Commander Kim. For a terrifying moment, nothing happened. Then space itself seemed to fold. Stars blurred. The ship shuddered. Emergency alarms blared throughout the vessel as temperature sensors overheated, and navigation systems temporarily failed. "Hold together," whispered Engineer Lee, patting the wall beside him. "Just hold together." And somehow it did. 3 weeks later, not 8 months, Audacity emerged at the exact coordinates provided in the invitation. The journey that should have taken the better part of a year had been completed in less time than an old sailing ship would have needed to cross the Pacific. Before them floated an enormous structure unlike anything humans had imagined. It resembled a massive flower with countless petals, each one apparently a docking bay for spacecraft of different shapes and sizes. Lights pulsed along its surface in patterns that seemed almost like language. "It's beautiful," breathed Dr. Jin Park, the expedition's xenobiologist. "And big enough to hold thousands of ships," added Security Chief Han Day. "Let's hope they're all as friendly as the invitation suggested." A new transmission reached them. "Earth vessel Audacity, you have arrived significantly before your projected timeline. Please explain." Commander Kim smiled as she opened a channel to respond. "Galactic Council, this is Commander J. Kim of Earth. We look forward to meeting you and explaining our methods in person. Request permission to dock." There was a long pause before the reply came. "Permission granted, Earth vessel. Your docking bay will illuminate. Please follow the guide lights." As Audacity approached the massive station, the crew fell silent, each lost in thought about what waited inside. They were about to become the first humans to meet intelligent alien life, carrying with them the hopes, dreams, and curiosity of an entire planet. "Ready?" Commander Kim asked her crew. They nodded, faces showing both fear and determination. "Then, let's go make history," she said, straightening her uniform, "and show the galaxy what humans can do." The doors to the Grand Council chamber slid open with a soft hiss. Ambassador Sue Park took a deep breath and led the human delegation forward. Behind her walked Commander J. Kim, Engineer Sung Lee, and 5 other Earth representatives, each chosen for their expertise and quick thinking. The chamber was enormous, with a domed ceiling that seemed to display an actual view of space rather than a simple projection. Circular tiers descended toward a central platform, with each section hosting representatives from different worlds. Some looked almost human. Others defied easy description. Crystalline structures that pulsed with light, floating gas clouds contained in special suits, and beings composed of what appeared to be liquid metal. "They're staring at us," whispered Medical Officer Jin Yu. She was right. Hundreds of alien eyes, sensory organs, and detection apparatus were focused entirely on the humans. The chamber had fallen completely silent. A tall, blue-skinned being with 4 arms approached them. "I am High Speaker Kella. Welcome, Earth delegation. We expected your arrival in, well, not for many more rotations." The translator conveyed surprise in the alien's tone. "Your method of arrival has caused quite a stir among our scientific community." Ambassador Park bowed respectfully. "Thank you for welcoming us, High Speaker. Earth is honored to be invited to this gathering of civilizations." The High Speaker guided them toward the central platform. As they walked, Park noticed many representatives leaning toward each other, whispering behind appendages or through communication devices. "They expected us to be more primitive," Commander Kim said, quietly. "They didn't think we'd figure out stable wormhole travel for another 1,000 years," Engineer Lee added with undisguised pride. "Our solutions may not be elegant by their standards, but they work." The formal introduction ceremony began with representatives from each major council faction approaching to welcome Earth. Some seemed genuinely curious, others clearly concerned. A reptilian being with iridescent scales spoke through its translator. "Your species has advanced from simple radio technology to wormhole travel in less than 200 years. Most civilizations take millennia for such development. How did you accomplish this?" Engineer Lee smiled. "We needed to get here, so we found a way. Human history is full of examples where necessity drove innovation. But the safety protocols alone would take centuries to perfect," insisted the reptilian. "We improvised some of those," Lee admitted. This caused a wave of murmurs through the chamber. One delegate, a being composed of interconnected orbs, actually moved away from the humans as if they might explode at any moment. Ambassador Park was about to speak when a deep rumble shook the chamber. Lights flickered. Then darkness fell, followed by emergency lighting bathing everything in red. Security breach in sectors 7 through 15, announced an automated voice in multiple languages. Chamber lockdown initiated. Several explosions rocked the station. The council representatives began talking all at once, their translators creating a cacophony of panicked voices. "Please remain calm," the high speaker called out. "Our security protocols." Another explosion cut off his words. This one closer. Part of the ceiling collapsed, crushing several empty seats. Dust and debris filled the air. "The exits are sealed," someone shouted. Commander Kim assessed the situation immediately. Those weren't random explosions. They were targeted to block evacuation routes. The council representatives moved in confused circles. Despite their advanced technology and ancient civilizations, they seemed paralyzed by the breakdown of protocols. Ambassador Park didn't hesitate. She climbed onto a fallen piece of debris and shouted, "Everyone, we need to organize an evacuation now." When few aliens responded, she turned to her team. "Sung, check if we can bypass their security systems to open the emergency exits. Jin, set up a medical station for the injured. Commander Kim, help me create safe passages through the debris." The human delegation sprang into action while most council members continued arguing about proper emergency procedures. Jin, Hugh tore strips from her own ceremonial robe to bandage an injured alien with tentacle-like limbs. Engineer Lee connected his personal device to a council terminal and began typing furiously. "Their security is complex," he muttered, "but follows logical patterns. Give me 3 minutes." Commander Kim and Security Officer Day found metal beams from the damaged ceiling and used them as levers to move heavier debris, creating a path toward one of the sealed exits. A tall, spindly alien approached. "Ambassador Park, what are you doing? This is not procedure. The Council has emergency response teams that will arrive when protocols allow." "When will that be?" Park asked, not pausing as she helped an injured representative. "Once proper authorization is processed, perhaps one standard rotation." "A whole day? People are injured now, we're not waiting." The alien's translator conveyed shock. "But the protocols are getting people killed," Park finished. "Where I come from, saving lives takes precedence over following rules." Before the alien could respond, Engineer Lee shouted triumphantly, "Got it! Emergency override successful. East exit will open in 10 seconds. True to his word, a large door slid open, revealing a corridor beyond. Commander Kim immediately began organizing an evacuation, prioritizing injured representatives. "You bypassed security measures deemed impenetrable," the high speaker said, approaching Lee with what might have been awe in its multifaceted eyes. "How?" "Your system assumes attacks would come from outside," Lee explained. "But it has fewer protections against someone already inside the network. It's a common oversight we discovered on Earth years ago, as they helped council members evacuate." Another explosion rocked the chamber. A support beam began to collapse directly above a group of smaller aliens. Without hesitation, Security Officer Day rushed forward, bracing the beam with his shoulders, until the aliens could escape. The strain showed on his face as Ambassador Park helped the last alien clear the danger zone. "Day, you can let go now." He dropped away just as the beam crashed down. Park pulled him to safety, both covered in dust but unharmed. Hours later, with the emergency contained and saboteurs captured, the council held an impromptu session in a backup chamber. The mood had shifted dramatically. "In all my cycles as High Speaker," Kella addressed the gathered representatives, "I have never witnessed such immediate, effective action in a crisis. The Earth delegation not only saved themselves, but many of our members as well." Ambassador Park stood tall despite her torn, dust-covered ceremonial clothes. "We did what any humans would do in an emergency. We adapted, improvised, and worked together. Without concern for proper channels of authority," noted one counselor, not entirely approving. "Without concern for anything except saving lives," Park corrected gently. "If that breaks protocol, then perhaps some protocols deserve to be broken." A low murmur spread through the chamber, not outrage as might have been expected, but thoughtful consideration. The humans had shown something the Council hadn't seen in millennia, the raw, unrefined power of a young species still hungry to prove itself among the stars. "Please extend your arm," said the Galactic Council's chief medical officer, a tall being with pale blue skin and six-fingered hands. The medical bay hummed with advanced technology that made Earth's best hospitals look primitive by comparison. Dr. Han Yun, the human delegation's physician, nodded encouragingly to Commander Kim. "It's just like a regular blood test, Commander. Their equipment is just more efficient." Commander Kim rolled up her sleeve and held out her arm. The medical officer pressed a small device against her skin. There was no pain, not even a pinprick sensation. The device glowed briefly. Then the officer pulled it away. "That's it?" Kim asked. "No needle?" "Cellular analysis complete," the alien physician said, ignoring her question as data began flowing across a holographic screen. "Now for atmospheric compatibility testing and—" The alien stopped mid-sentence, staring at the readings. "Is something wrong?" Dr. Yoon asked, stepping closer to view the screen. The alien medical officer made a sound that the translator couldn't quite interpret. 3 other council medical staff hurried over, their movements conveying alarm. "These readings can't be correct," said one, a squat reptilian being with scaled hands. "The system must be malfunctioning." Dr. Yoon frowned. "What's the problem?" The chief medical officer turned all 4 of his eyes toward the humans. "According to these readings, Commander Kim's bloodstream contains trace amounts of at least 287 compounds that would be lethal to most council species. There are microplastics, heavy metals, synthetic hormone residues, and— Is this caffeine?" "Probably," Commander Kim said with a shrug. "I had coffee this morning." "Coffee?" The word emerged untranslated, clearly unfamiliar. "A beverage we drink for energy," explained Dr. Yoon. "It contains caffeine, which stimulates our nervous system." "You deliberately consume nervous system stimulants?" The alien's voice conveyed pure disbelief. "Many humans do," Kim replied. "Some of us drink it several times daily." The medical team huddled together, speaking rapidly in their native language. When they turned back, the chief physician held out a different scanning device. "We need to examine your entire delegation immediately. These readings suggest serious contamination or possibly radiation exposure that might explain your species' unusual behavior." Over the next hour, the entire human delegation underwent comprehensive scanning. With each new result, the council medical team grew more agitated. Finally, they gathered in a conference room to discuss their findings. "Your entire species should be dead," stated the chief physician bluntly. "Your bodies contain traces of thousands of compounds that would kill most sentient life forms in the galaxy. Microplastics have integrated into your cellular structure. You have residual radiation markers. Your digestive systems contain bacteria that would cause fatal infections in other species." Ambassador Park exchanged glances with Dr. Yoon. "Yet, here we are perfectly healthy." "That's precisely what concerns us," said a willowy alien with translucent skin. "Your biochemistry doesn't make sense. You've somehow adapted to substances that would devastate other worlds." Dr. Yoon stepped forward. "Earth has a complex history of environmental changes. Humans evolved alongside countless microorganisms, plants, and animals, all competing and adapting. Our bodies learned to process or isolate potentially harmful substances over generations." "But the industrial compounds, the synthetic materials?" asked the chief physician. "Those are more recent," Dr. Yoon admitted. "Our industrial development outpaced our understanding of environmental consequences. Microplastics entered our food chains, chemicals leached into water supplies, air quality suffered in developing regions. Rather than dying out, we adapted." The medical team's translated response contained terms suggesting both horror and fascination. "You're telling us your species poisoned its own planet, then evolved to survive the poisoning?" asked the reptilian doctor. Engineer Lee, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. "We didn't plan it that way, but yes, human resilience is remarkable. We're working to clean up our world now, but our bodies have already changed to cope with these challenges." "Remarkable indeed," murmured the chief physician. "Terrifying, but remarkable." 3 days later, the council hosted a formal diplomatic reception to welcome Earth officially. The human delegation entered a vast hall where representatives from dozens of worlds mingled. Floating trays carried small containers of various foods and beverages, each clearly labeled with symbols indicating which species could safely consume them. Ambassador Park accepted what appeared to be a small cake from a passing tray marked "Safe for Humans." Nearby, a group of council representatives watched with undisguised curiosity. "Your medical profiles have become quite the topic of discussion," said High Speaker Kella, approaching the humans. "Our xenobiologists have been studying your results nonstop. I hope we haven't caused too much concern," Park replied politely. "On the contrary, many find your species' adaptability fascinating if somewhat alarming." Kella gestured toward a table laden with various foods. "We've prepared Earth-compatible refreshments based on your nutritional data." The human delegation approached the table cautiously. There were familiar-looking fruits, something resembling bread, and several unidentifiable items. Security Officer Day picked up a small cup containing a dark liquid. He sniffed it, then took a sip. His eyebrows rose in surprise. "This tastes like coffee." A nearby council member, a being with crystalline features, shuddered visibly. "We analyzed the chemical composition of your coffee and recreated it. The stimulant content alone would kill several council species instantly." "Really?" Day took another sip. "It's actually quite mild compared to what I usually drink." The crystalline being's translator conveyed shock. "Your usual beverage is stronger than this." "Oh yes," Engineer Lee joined the conversation. "Some humans prefer triple espresso shots. That's coffee concentrated to about 3 times normal strength." Several nearby aliens moved subtly away from the humans. Later in the evening, Commander Kim was engaged in conversation with representatives from a gas giant world when a server offered her a tray of small glasses filled with amber liquid. "What's this?" she asked. "A fermented grain beverage from your planet," the server explained. "Our fabricators recreated it based on your data files. I believe it's called whiskey." Kim took a glass, sniffed it appreciatively, and took a small sip. "That's surprisingly good." A nearby reptilian representative spoke up. "Your species voluntarily consumes ethanol, a powerful solvent and neurotoxin?" "Not just consume it," said Medical Officer Jin Yu with a smile. "On Earth, we have drinking competitions to see who can consume the most before their body gives out." The reptilian's translator struggled to convey the concept, eventually producing voluntary poisoning contests. "Something like that," Jinide replied, "though we call it Friday night back home." As the evening progressed, the human delegation found themselves surrounded by increasingly fascinated council members. Questions came from all directions. "Is it true you eat plants containing capsaicin that causes pain sensations? You consume caffeine daily and still sleep? Your data indicates some humans willingly jump from high places for entertainment?" Ambassador Park handled each question with patience and good humor. When a particularly bold counselor asked about Earth's most extreme eating contests, she described competitive hot pepper eating. "So these humans compete to eat food that causes intense pain?" the counselor asked, clearly struggling with the concept. "And they pay for the privilege," Park confirmed. By the end of the evening, a clear space had formed around the human delegation's table. Council representatives still approached, but with a new caution in their movements, as if the humans might do something unpredictable at any moment. "I think we're making an impression," Commander Kim whispered to Ambassador Park. Park nodded, watching as a group of council scientists huddled nearby, casting glances their way while deep in discussion. "Yes, but I'm not sure if they're impressed or terrified. Maybe a bit of both," Dr. Yoon suggested. "We've survived things that would kill most of them instantly, and we did it through sheer biological stubbornness." "Human adaptability," Parky used. "Perhaps that's our greatest strength after all." Technical Officer Jun Lee waited nervously outside the Council's archive chamber. Inside, a team of alien historians and analysts had spent 3 days reviewing the historical records Earth had submitted. The hallway's curved walls glowed with soft light, making the space feel both ancient and futuristic at once. "You look worried," said Commander Kim, approaching from down the corridor. Lee sighed. "Wouldn't you be? They're in there looking at everything. Our wars, our environmental mistakes, our social struggles." "We have nothing to hide," Kim replied. "Every civilization has its dark chapters." "Yes, but we have so many packed into such a short time, and they're all very recent." Before Kim could respond, the archive chamber doors slid open. A council page, a small green being with large eyes, beckoned them inside. The chamber was circular, with a sunken central area surrounded by tiered seating. Most of the council's senior representatives were already present, their faces, those that had faces, unreadable to human eyes. Ambassador Park and the rest of the Earth delegation sat in a designated area, looking tense. High Speaker Kella stood at the center. "Commander Kim, Officer Lee, please join your colleagues. The Council is ready to discuss Earth's historical submission." As they took their seats, Lee whispered to Ambassador Park, "How bad is it?" She gave a small grimace. "They haven't said anything yet, but I've never seen some of these species so still." High Speaker Kella's voice echoed through the chamber. "In accordance with Admission Protocol 7, we have reviewed Earth's historical archives. This review is standard procedure for all species seeking Council membership." The High Speaker paused. "We must acknowledge that Earth's history presents unique considerations." A holographic display activated in the center of the room, showing a timeline of human history. It began with early civilizations and quickly advanced through the ages. The pace accelerated noticeably when it reached the Industrial Revolution, then moved at blinding speed through the 20th and 21st centuries. "Most species," continued Kella, "develop technologies at a measured pace. The average time from discovering basic electricity to achieving space travel is approximately 4,200 standard years. Humans accomplish this in less than 200. Murmurs spread through the chamber. "Similarly concerning," Kella went on, "is humanity's pattern of technological development coinciding with warfare. Your most significant advancements often occurred during or immediately following periods of conflict." The display showed images from Earth's major wars, from ancient battles to modern conflicts. Some council members visibly recoiled at scenes from World War II and other 20th century clashes. "We also note with concern," said a different council member, a tall, thin being with silvery skin who was introduced as the representative of the Eldar Collective, one of the oldest council races, "that humans have repeatedly used new technologies as weapons before finding peaceful applications. The atomic bomb preceded nuclear power plants. Military drones came before delivery drones. Is this not evidence of an inherently aggressive species?" Ambassador Park started to rise, but Technical Officer Lee touched her arm and stood instead. "If I may address the Council?" he asked. The High Speaker nodded permission. Lee walked to the center of the chamber, his steps echoing in the sudden silence. He studied the faces around him, some humanoid, others utterly alien, all watching, with what he could only interpret as suspicion. "Respected council members," he began, "I won't deny anything you've seen in our records. Earth's history contains violence, destruction, and mistakes that we continue to address. But that's not our complete story." He tapped his datapad, and the display changed. Now it showed Michelangelo's David, the Taj Mahal, and the Great Wall of China. While we fought wars, we also created beauty. The images shifted to show hospitals, disaster relief efforts, peace treaties. While we developed weapons, we also developed medicines that eradicated diseases that once killed millions. Lee walked slowly around the chamber, making eye contact with as many council representatives as possible. "Most importantly, what you're seeing isn't just our history, it's our progress. Each generation has learned from the mistakes of those before them. We've established international laws against war crimes. We've created global health organizations. We've signed treaties to protect our environment." The Eldar representative's voice cut through the chamber. "Pretty words cannot erase the fact that your species developed weapons capable of planetary destruction barely a century after discovering electricity. The pace of your advancement is dangerous, not just to yourselves but potentially to the entire council. Lee nodded thoughtfully. I understand your concern, but consider this. What takes other species millennia doesn't just reflect our aggression, it reflects our problem-solving ability. When faced with obstacles, humans innovate. He changed the display again. Now it showed Earth's rapid response to the climate crisis of the mid-21st century, the international cooperation that finally brought peace to long-troubled regions, and the unified effort that produced their first warp-capable ships. We don't hide from our history, Lee continued, his voice growing stronger. We learn from it. Humans can be dangerous, but mostly to problems that need solving and obstacles in our path, including extinction. The chamber fell silent as council members processed his words. Finally, a representative from a water-dwelling species spoke up. Your adaptability is impressive, but your past suggests you solve problems through conflict as often as cooperation. That was true once, Ambassador Park said, joining Lee in the center. But our recent history shows a different pattern. She gestured to the timeline. 200 years ago, nations that had fought for centuries formed economic unions. Former enemies now share scientific knowledge freely. When global threats emerged, like pandemics or climate change, old rivalries were set aside for the common good. A crystalline being that had remained silent until now spoke, its voice creating musical tones that the translator converted to words. This diplomatic gathering has already witnessed human adaptability firsthand. During the attack on this chamber, the human delegation ignored protocols but saved many lives. Your biochemistry has adapted to conditions that would kill most species. Perhaps, the being's crystals shifted color thoughtfully. Perhaps your rapid development is simply another form of adaptation. The council chamber erupted in discussion, with representatives forming small groups, some arguing heatedly while others listened intently. Ambassador Park and Officer Lee returned to their seats. What happens now? Whispered Medical Officer Jin Yu. Now we wait. Park replied. The council needs time to process everything they've learned. Hours passed. The Earth delegation remained in their seats while council representatives debated, sometimes in languages too complex for the translators to fully capture. Occasionally, representatives would approach the humans with questions, some technical, others philosophical. A small group of younger council races seemed particularly interested in Earth's history of overcoming division. How did nations that fought for centuries learn to cooperate? Asked one. Necessity, Commander Kim explained. We realized we faced problems too big for any single nation to solve alone. But some of your historical rivals still maintain different governing systems, different beliefs, noted another representative. Yes, Kim acknowledged. We don't always agree on methods, but we've learned to respect different approaches while working toward common goals. This concept seemed to fascinate many council members. Several older races had visible difficulty grasping the idea of cooperation without complete ideological alignment. You're saying, clarified a gelatinous being that had been quietly observing, that Earth nations maintain distinctive cultures and governance while still collaborating globally? Exactly, Ambassador Park confirmed. Unity doesn't require uniformity. That phrase spread through the chamber, translated into dozens of languages. The mood gradually shifted from suspicion to cautious interest. Late in the day, the High Speaker called the session to order again. The Council has deliberated on Earth's historical record. While concerns remain about your species' rapid development and capacity for conflict, we also recognize your equally strong capacity for adaptation and problem-solving. The High Speaker's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a gesture the humans had learned indicated deep thought. Most importantly, you have demonstrated something rare among emerging species, the ability to learn from mistakes rather than repeat them, and to find unity despite differences. Ambassador Park allowed herself a small smile. The Council might not fully trust humans yet, but they were beginning to understand them, and in understanding, perhaps they would find common ground, across differences greater than any Earth had ever known. The Grand Council chamber had never felt so tense. For 3 weeks, the Earth delegation had waited while the 127 member species debated their fate. They'd been given comfortable quarters on the massive station and limited access to Council archives. But the waiting had worn on everyone's nerves. "Do you think they've reached a decision?" Engineer Sung Lee asked, adjusting his formal uniform as they walked the long corridor toward the chamber. Ambassador Sue Park nodded. The message said this would be the final session regarding Earth's membership application. One way or another, we'll know today. Commander J. Kim walked silently beside them, her face revealing nothing. She'd spent the 3 weeks studying everything she could access about Council history and protocol. What she'd learned hadn't made her optimistic. The older Council races rarely change their minds, she said finally, and several were strongly against our membership. "They're afraid of us," Medical Officer Jin Yu remarked. "Isn't that strange? Their technology is centuries beyond ours." "It's not our technology they fear," Technical Officer Jun Lee replied. "It's our unpredictability." They reached the massive doors of the Council chamber, which swung open silently at their approach. Inside, every tier was filled. Representatives from all 127 civilizations had gathered for this historic vote. The humans felt the weight of countless eyes upon them as they walked to their designated area. High Speaker Kella stood at the center of the chamber, all 4 arms held in a formal position that the Earth delegation had learned signified a momentous declaration. "Representatives of Earth," Kella began, voice carrying throughout the chamber without apparent amplification. "The Council has completed its deliberations regarding your application for membership." Ambassador Park stepped forward. "The people of Earth appreciate the Council's thorough consideration of our application. We await your decision." Kella's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "The path to this decision has not been smooth. Many among us expressed serious reservations about admitting a species with your particular history and characteristics." Several Council members nodded in agreement. On one of the upper tiers, the crystalline beings who had been most vocal in their opposition glowed with a harsh blue light. "However," Kella continued, "recent events have given us cause to reconsider traditional admission protocols. The attack on this chamber, which intelligence now confirms was orchestrated by outside forces hoping to disrupt Council operations, might have succeeded if not for human intervention." Kella gestured to a side entrance, where a group of Council security officers entered, escorting a tall being whose features were partially hidden by a containment field. "The leader of the attack has confessed that they targeted our security systems specifically because they follow predictable protocols. They calculated correctly that when faced with unexpected threats, Council response would be slowed by procedural requirements. The being was led away, but their presence had made a powerful point." Murmurs swept through the chamber. In light of these findings, and after the most extensive debate in 10,000 years, the Council has reached a decision. The chamber fell completely silent. Earth's application for membership is approved. Ambassador Park's careful diplomacy slipped for just a moment as she broke into a wide smile. The human delegation exchanged quick glances of relief and triumph. But Kella wasn't finished. "However, your admission comes with a unique designation, one never before assigned to a member world." The humans tensed again. Earth will be designated as Crisis Innovation Specialists within the Council framework. "What does that mean exactly?" Park asked carefully. High Speaker Kella made a gesture, and a holographic display appeared, showing a new addition to the Council charter. "It means that in situations where standard protocols are failing, where Council procedures might hamper necessary rapid response, representatives of Earth will have special dispensation to improvise solutions." One of the elder race representatives, a being so ancient it appeared almost translucent, floated forward. "This was not a decision reached lightly. For 100,000 years, the Council has built stability through careful, measured progress. Our protocols exist to prevent hasty actions that might lead to unforeseen consequences." The elder being paused, its voice growing softer. "But perhaps, in our pursuit of perfect stability, we have forgotten something essential. That adaptation requires disruption, that survival sometimes demands improvisation and that rules exist to serve life, not constrain it. Those words sent another wave of murmurs through the chamber, some approving, others clearly disturbed. From the upper tiers, a representative of the Thandarian Collective, one of the most conservative council races, called out, "This is unprecedented. You would allow these newcomers to disregard protocols that have maintained peace for millennia? The Thandarian Collective cannot support such recklessness. We will withdraw from the council if this amendment passes." Several other representatives signaled agreement, creating a moment of crisis. Council unity had been maintained for thousands of years. A withdrawal would be historic and dangerous. Ambassador Park stepped forward to speak, but Commander Kim gently moved past her. This moment called for something beyond diplomatic language. "If I may address the council?" Kim requested. High Speaker Kella nodded permission. Kim walked to the center of the chamber, looking up at the tiers of alien faces. She took a deep breath. "Respected representatives of the Thandarian Collective, and all who share their concerns, I understand your fear. By your standards, humans are unpredictable, even dangerous. Our history contains enough conflict to justify your caution." She paused, making eye contact with as many representatives as possible. "But consider this. The attack on this chamber succeeded initially because it was predictable. Your protocols, for all their wisdom, created patterns that your enemies could exploit. When those protocols failed, lives were at risk." Kim gestured toward her fellow humans. "We don't wish to replace your protocols. They've maintained peace for longer than our species has been keeping written records. But sometimes when patterns fail, survival depends on those who can think beyond established patterns." The chamber had grown very quiet. Even the most critical representatives seemed to be listening. The humanity clause doesn't mean chaos. It means having a resource for moments when order alone isn't enough. Think of us as your emergency toolkit to be used when standard procedures aren't working. This analogy seemed to resonate with many council members. The Thandarian representative's color shifted slightly, a sign of consideration, according to the cultural briefings the humans had studied. After a moment, the Thandarian spoke again. "We have reviewed the security footage from the attack. Without human intervention, casualties would have been significant. Perhaps there is merit in having specialists for such situations, provided clear boundaries are established." It wasn't full support, but it was enough. The withdrawal threat had been averted. High Speaker Kella made a gesture that the humans had learned indicated relief. "Then, if there are no further objections, I formally welcome Earth as the 128th member world of the Galactic Council, with special designation as Crisis Innovation Specialists. May this new partnership bring wisdom to us all." A soft tone echoed through the chamber, signifying that the decision was now recorded in the Council's permanent archives. Earth had joined the galactic community. As the formal proceedings concluded, the human delegation was surrounded by representatives offering congratulations, some enthusiastic, others more reserved but respectful. Technical Officer Jun Lee found himself explaining Earth's approach to problem-solving to a fascinated group of younger species. Medical Officer Jin Yu was deep in conversation with xenobiologists about human adaptability. Engineer Sung Lee had attracted a circle of council scientists still baffled by the wormhole drive that had brought humans to the council far ahead of schedule. At the chamber's center, Commander Kim and Ambassador Park spoke with High Speaker Kella about arrangements for Earth's formal integration into council affairs. Earth would send a permanent delegation, while council representatives would establish a mission on Earth. "There will be challenges," Kella acknowledged. "Some council species will require special accommodations on your world due to atmospheric or gravitational differences, and your people will need time to adjust to the reality of galactic civilization." "We've been imagining meeting aliens for centuries," Park replied with a smile. "Reality may be different from our science fiction, but we're ready for this step." As the session prepared to conclude, Commander Kim requested one final moment to address the full council. Standing in the center of the ancient chamber, surrounded by beings from across the galaxy, she spoke from the heart. "Respected council members, as our delegation prepares to return to Earth with this historic news, I want to express our deepest gratitude. We came seeking knowledge and friendship. We found both, but we also discovered something unexpected, that even after reaching the stars, every civilization still has something to learn. Even yours. Especially ours. She looked around at the assembled representatives, at the incredible diversity of life and thought gathered in one place, united despite differences far greater than any Earth had known. Together we can be more than the sum of our parts. Earth's creativity and your wisdom, our adaptability and your stability. This is just the beginning of what we can accomplish together. The ancient council chamber, normally a place of measured discourse and careful deliberation, erupted in something rarely heard in its hallowed halls: spontaneous applause. It began with the younger species but spread until even some of the eldest races were signaling approval in their own ways. As the sound washed over them, the human delegation shared a look of quiet triumph. Earth had arrived on the galactic stage, and nothing in the universe would ever be quite the same again.